Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Step Sells Homes podcast. This is episode 47, and we have a very special guest. His name is Eric Escobar with Escobuilders, and he's here today to talk to us about my favorite topic. You guys already know, ADUs. I'm always bringing on different guests who really specialize in the field and bring on different perspectives, different strategies that are working for them in this current market. And of course, we're also going to talk about real estate because he is also an investor. So I'm super excited to have him come on and share a lot of knowledge today. So welcome, Eric. How's it going?
What up? Great. Yourself?
Pretty good. You know, working away and shooting these dope episodes with like-minded people. So thank you so much for coming on. So tell people a little bit about who Eric is, and then I'll kind of share a little bit about how we met, and then we'll take lead on that.
So basically, we build ADUs for customers, and we grab that revenue that we build for customers, the profits we make, and we put that into ADUs ourselves, buying homes and building ADUs, and we rent those out. So I know a lot of builders, they build, go buy a fancy truck, go buy a fancy horse, and that's their living, right? That's the way they do it. It's like me, I do quite the opposite because I know in 10, 20, 30 years, rentals are going to be like rentals are the thing now. So if you know anybody that's bought rentals 30 years ago, they're probably well off now. So why not duplicate the same thing? And now we even have an advantage because before they would do these garage conversions illegally. Now we have garage conversions that can be done legally and increase your rent, which makes it a lot easier to get loans. So that's kind of what we do. We build and we keep for ourselves.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think that's one good thing that helps you stand out from other contractors amongst like even realtors. Speaking on myself, right? A lot of us in the real estate space don't really apply the rules of investment. So it's kind of cool to see that you are building ADUs to then funnel that source of revenue to build some yourself. That's really dope. And I see like your content. We actually met through social media, and the ADU world, guys, just like everything else in any specific field, is such a small world. Like we all know everybody. You know the people that are doing the right thing, and you know some of the ones that aren't really about what they say.
Which there's many.
There's so many of them. Like that's how I got involved in the whole ADU space, because when I first got started in ADUs, one of the guys that I trusted and that I didn't have enough knowledge about ADUs. I thought that he was who he said he was, and turns out he wasn't, right? So that's kind of what led me on to take on this path and really understand the whole ADU game. And I kind of took it personal, and because there's so many of them out there, that you really got to vet the people that you work with. So so now, you know, we kind of met through mutual friends. We met on social media, but Eric does a really good job of educating and like putting a lot of content out there from the investment perspective. So I know you do a lot of, we'll talk about the ADU process, and there's a few other things that are going on with legislation, but tell me about like how you got started. Was it as an investor, as a contractor first? Like, how'd you niche down into ADUs, and when was this roughly?
Got it. This is about 4 years ago. So we've always been in construction. And my dad's always had a construction business. So the construction is not new to us per se. The one thing I always saw, and this is from every contractor still that I see today, is always susceptible to one or two flippers. So they work with flippers work them down. And I say this based on experience with my own pops, that I seen him going through these headaches with one or two flippers, and they work them down for free work. Like I'm all for hooking up our clients, but there becomes a point that's like, hey, you're cutting into a profit. Let's talk about this as something additional. Well, these flippers will hold them hostage, and they still do. I see it all the time. Flippers will hold contractors hostage to give them all the money. I see it all the time. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go direct to consumer, past the flippers, and help them build wealth. So ADUs, that's what it comes down to, is building wealth. It's not a short-term play, which a lot of people are like, you're not getting the value out of it, especially right here in Los Angeles right now. We're not getting the value for these ADUs in a lot of parts. Some parts you may if you sell. If you sell, you'll get the value. If you refinance, you probably won't get the value, because it's happened to me. I leave money in the deal, in the more, like, for me to qualify for the loan, I have to leave money in there. So that being said, I kept seeing this over and over with these flippers and my pops. and other people I knew. And I'm like, dude, I'm tired of this. So we just went direct to consumer, and we help consumers build wealth the right way. And another thing I would see is consumers always getting screwed over by contractors. And it's like, I give real information. I give real numbers on what things cost. Like, I'm sure you heard people claim that ADUs will cost them 60 grand, 50 grand. I'm like, where? Where? I will lose money if I give you at that rate. So this happens all the time. So it's like, I rather educate, and I'm like the lighthouse, and the people that need to come to me will come to me through the education. And those are the customers I want to deal with, because all the ones that complain about pricing and, hey, you're overcharging, it's like, my content throws them away anyways. Like, it keeps them out, and it keeps the people I need it in.
It filters out like the people who are actually going to take action or not. It's like the same concept with me, right? I push out content to cater to investors and buyers, and the ones that are serious about actually wanting to buy. Like, if you feel that it's too expensive, or it's unattainable, or it's just not something that is even doable here in California, then you're probably not the right one to fit. You know, you're not the fit for me per se, because I only want to work with people that are well educated to make educated decisions, because we're not here to sell anybody on anything, right? We're here to educate you, because through knowledge is how you become confident in making the right decision. I think I agree with you 100% on the contracting stuff. Like, a lot of people, especially right now with ADUs, a lot of homeowners seem frustrated because now they have to understand architectural plans. Now they have to understand construction. Now they have to understand financing, and they have to understand an exit strategy. And it's like a lot, you know? So I try to become like that middleman that helps them navigate through it all. Because you don't have to know everything, but you do need to work with the people that are going to be looking out for you.
So there's value in that. There's value in actually taking everybody from step 1 to step 100 or A through Z. There's value in that. And a lot of people, like a lot of these guys that say, oh, it's 60 grand, it's 50 grand. The ones that are always complaining on my comments, like, they forget that part, that maybe they're in the trades and they kind of seen it. But like somebody that's, say, a doctor working 40, 50, 60 hours a week.
They don't have time to PM and, like, you know, chase subs and stuff like that. Yeah.
They'll hire Stephanie. They'll hire me to take care of the architectural plans, all the way down to like, hey, rent it out now. You're ready. Or, hey, move in your mother-in-law. It's ready. Like, that's what people pay for. It's not the actual tradesman and all this. People think it's that, but in reality, it's alleviating headaches, because they know it's going to be a headache from the get-go.
Exactly. And those people who claim that, you know, I always tell people, if somebody told you they can do it for under 100K, go with them, you know, and good luck. And, you know, I've had it where they call me back, you know, saying they should have made a different choice, but that's after the fact. Now you really are spending twice as much for not making the right decision, you know.
Do you smirk? Do you smirk when they come back? Like,
yeah, well, sometimes I'm not gonna lie, I'd be responding on the DMs and I'm like, I told you so, right? Like, I mean, what can I do at that point? You should have listened to me and trusted me, but you didn't from the beginning. And unfortunately, it is what it is. Another thing you touched on too was it is a long-term play. Whether you're a first-time home buyer who wants to offset the mortgage, whether you're a seasoned investor in the residential space, or even a multifamily person that's doing multiple ADUs, it's a long-term play, because like you said earlier, we're not getting the value that ADUs deserve, because one, we don't have enough data. Appraisers don't know how to comp it out. There just isn't like a streamlined process to say, okay, we can compare this ADU to this one here. There's different types. There's different, just different structures, different areas. It's like too many components to say this, you know, it's a one size fits all. So it's a very complex way to evaluate these ADUs that I think people need to think long term. And one of your posts that you posted this week was talking about rentals. And that's one thing I've been advocating a lot about too, because as more ADUs are being built, and now California, Southern California is up to speed. In 2017, a lot of people didn't know what they were. Now everybody gets it. Everybody understands it. And now that more are being built, a lot of people aren't putting thought into what are you going to do after it's built? Like, are you going to manage it? Are you going to find a tenant? Are you going to, take care of maintenance, take care of work orders, whatever? Like, are you going to come up with a marketing strategy to price it right and rent it, do lease renewals? People aren't thinking about the rental game after the fact. So I'm also advocating on that. And one of your posts was talking about looking at it on a long-term game, like you're going to see that rental income consistently coming in and the appreciation, and then also capitalizing on the depreciation of now getting that rental income. I think that's like the biggest benefit and picture that people need to understand. You can't expect to spend $150K on your ADU and get 150 in evaluation a year later. Like that's just not how it's going to work, right?
Not there yet. Yeah.
Not yet. Not yet. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, you know, the way I see it, it's always going to be long term. Anything you do that makes sense, it's always going to be long term. Like
True.
there's no short term anything. And obviously, people will claim it online, and they will probably claim it to sell you some shit. Like I don't sell anybody anything. You will never see me on a pitch online. There will never be a video, and I post 2 to 3 videos a day, and there's not a video of me pitching. Why?
Right.
Because we're gonna come to me. We're gonna work together. Cool. If not, go with somebody that's gonna pitch you on why you should go with them.
And I also know, like, part of the reason why you're very knowledgeable on the investment side is, one, because you have investments yourself, but two, you follow Thatch's teachings, right? And for those of you who don't know Thatch, he's a coach, right? He's like a life mentor, real estate guru that a lot of investors know within the space. How has he impacted your life and, you know, really like broaden your perspective into the investment world? Because I'm sure that's played a role in how you do business, right? And how you move in your own investments.
Huge, dude. So I started my own business I was 21, so 14 years ago. 14 years ago.
Ooh, you just gave away your age, FYI.
Yeah. So, guys can do that. Girls can't do that.
Yeah.
14 years ago, I opened up a gym. So I opened up 5 gyms, total of 5 gyms that were making profit around 60 to 70,000 a month. Damn. I wouldn't spend it on shit I should have. I spent it on vacations. I spent it on going out with my wife, which at the time was my girlfriend. And we were just going out and about. Like literally half of the year we're on vacation. Right? And thinking about it now, like I would be like on a way other path if I would have put that into real estate. Real estate didn't even cross my mind because it was just like, oh, I'm just going to be making endless amounts of money. We had these gyms on just autopilot. So during COVID, you already know what happened. Gyms couldn't open for months. So I shut 2 down. I sold 2 and 1 still in operation now. But in hindsight, I should have, instead of opening up more and more locations, which that teaches less headaches, but I opened up more locations, means more employees, which ultimately was more stress. I should have just pocketed that money and thrown it into real estate. So now, fast forward, we're doing okay in construction. We're pretty busy, and we're making good spreads on our business. So getting that money and putting it into real estate. You know what I mean? So now it's like, he's like, hey, keep your team tight. I know all these ADU companies want to go huge and big and scale and sell, and to like, no, keep it tight, profits into real estate. And then you'll see the rewards in 10, 15 years. And why do I listen to him? Because I see it in him. Like when he comes and visits, I'm like, oh, okay, this guy's worth, I don't know, $150 million net. It's just like, you know, he makes $100K a month on just cash flow, over 100. So I'm like, okay.
And you know, he's being conservative. You know damn well he makes way more than that. He's just.
I've seen the numbers. I know he's being conservative.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, okay, cool. Like that's the lifestyle I prefer. I know a lot of people want to go big, grow their business huge. It's like, I did that. And you never know, there might be a black swan event like what happened in 2020 that just kills all your revenue. So
that was definitely a growing pain. I didn't know that about you. That's pretty dope to know. But one, I mean, kudos to you for being able to open 5 gyms. At 21, it's like so tempting. I think I probably would have just spent all the money on dumb shit too at that age, you know? But one thing that Thatch teaches is his life teachings. Like he really did sacrifice a lot to get to where he's at. And sometimes we don't think 10 years ahead. We don't think 15 years ahead. You think that you're always going to be selling real estate, or you're always going to be doing construction, or you're just always going to have that consistent income coming in where, you know, like a life situation can happen and what happens if you stop working? Like everything stops, right? So investing in real estate is obviously the only leverage that you have towards things that happen, like life situations that would be thrown at you. If you have that consistent cash flow is king, right? And that's one of his teachings. So I know he has a big impact. That's why I asked you that question. I took one of his courses, or it was like the springboard, like it was like a 4-week course. And I went to a few of his meetups, and that really helped me a lot as well. So I think that he just brings a lot of value for those new investors who kind of don't know where to get started. I would say follow Thatch, follow his mentorship program, because it really just gives you everything that you need to set you up for success. But
dude, the whole social media thing derived from him. So we were building. Okay. We bought a property and we're building the ADU. So he comes to the property. He's like, "Hey, who's building this?" And I'm like, "Well, we are." He's like, "How's business?" At that time, we were dealing with the flippers that I was telling you about. So he said, "Hey, make 2 to 3 videos a day, and you won't know what to do with all the business you're gonna get." I was like, "All right, cool. Like, if this guy's doing it and he's successful, I'll do it too." So that's what I think a lot of people get mixed up on. It's like, okay, if you have 2 contractors, let's say you have 2 contractors, one owns ADUs and one doesn't. I'm not saying one is better than the other, but this guy probably has dealt with the tenant stuff. The one that has ADUs has dealt with the tenant stuff, has dealt with problems after construction's done, right? What if there's a leak? Like all those things that happen after construction that nobody ever talks about, they do happen. What do you have a problem tenant? Hey, maybe that contractor that does have ADUs could talk to you about that. Or, hey, Steph's done that a few times. Maybe she could talk to you about that. But a lot of people think it's apples and apples, which it ain't.
It's not. And as soon as shit hits the fan, they're going to call that contractor. They're going to call that realtor. I like to set up expectations and be super transparent, especially on the aftermath. Because a lot of people put thought into, okay, I'm going to build this thing for cash flow, to offset expenses or whatever the case may be, but you're not thinking long term, once again, to what can happen after the fact, right? And those little scenarios people aren't ready for. So a lot of people, another thing too, they get hung up on how much it's going to cost, how long it's going to take. Like, people need to think bigger. Some people, they call me and they're like, 12 months, well, whoever's telling you that they can get it done in 6 are lying. 6 to 8 months, they're lying to you, first of all. Second of all, like, you're building a whole ass house, right? You can't expect to have this turnaround time in a couple of months,
Well, because there's so much falseness in timelines that people give, dude. I hear even some people I know, oh, we'll get it done in 3. I'm like, dude, why are you lying? Now you put yourself in a position that the client expects that, and you're not going to get it done in 3 months. So no matter what you do or how nice it comes out, you're still going to look bad because you didn't get it done in 3 months. So I always say, we'll get it done in 7 months, and we'll get it done in 4. Great. We get it done in 5. Now we look like rock stars. So expectations, always overestimate on your time.
Always. I always overestimate on the timelines because you want to overpromise, or what is it? Yeah, like that saying, overpromise, underdeliver, whatever. Because people get hung up on the underpromise, overdeliver. You're right. Yeah. I said it backwards, but you guys know what I meant. Yep. So yeah, I always like to be super conservative on how much it's going to cost to, or be transparent, not even conservative at this point. It's like, this is how much it's going to cost if you're looking to build something under 500, something between 6 to 8, 8 to 1,000, because I don't want people to just get so hung up on this one exact price that I'm giving them. There's aside from the pricing and the time frame, people don't understand all the people that come into play, right? We got architects, we got the city, we got contractors that babysit subcontractors, that babysit other people, right? We've got the lender as well, because most of these people aren't coming out with cash, right? Like, most people are financing these projects. And so there's multiple people involved, and everybody has to be in sync. It's like everybody's like on the band, kind of. If they're off, it throws everything off. So that's the other thing that I try to tell people when you're choosing the right company to work with. Like, I'm assuming you have your team of architects, right? Engineers, the whole 9 that are in sync. They know exactly how you work. You guys are probably communicating well, which is why you're able to successfully do so many projects. We were talking about I know we talked about the city process, and on top of that, there's like legislation that has passed, that has updated. They continue to update legislation every year. And one of the things that's been thrown out is AB 1033, right? Or 1031, which is like not subdividing, but being able to sell off your ADU. And if that goes through, I know you have more experience on that from like other markets, right? Like Portland and Seattle. What's your take on that? Like, what do you think if that was to happen, how that would?
Well, my goal right now, based on what's happened in other states, I'm land banking. So what am I doing? I'm buying properties with little larger backyards that I can build these ADUs in the future. So land banking right now with something that just breaks even, doesn't even cash flow, just breaks even. One, you're instantly going to start building equity once they start paying down the mortgage, right? Once you start paying down the mortgage, you put a tenant in place. So, but I'm always trying to see where I could put an ADU, because once you're able to condomize these things, which it's kind of like, hey, you could have different APNs for them, right? And Seattle has that, Portland has that. So there's different cities that have already done this, or different states that have already done this. And the biggest issue, I go to city council meetings here in my city, is affordability. That's the biggest issue. Every city talks about is affordability, affordability, affordability. And obviously all the homelessness going on right now, right? Whether it's drugs, whether it's something else, but affordability becomes an issue. So I'm thinking, hey, why don't I just land bank, buy some property that already has a little backyard where the ADU has maybe an alley access or a corner lot where I could actually.
I always say that. Yeah.
So I don't have tons of money where I could just keep building and building and building. But hey.
But you're buying with the intention of building, right? That's what I tell like my first time home buyers, right? Because sometimes I work with a lot of first time home buyers, and they don't even, sometimes the first time home buyers barely have enough to come with their down payment, their closing costs to buy the property. But where I come into play is I help them think bigger. You know, we'll buy your property with, let's say, over 5,000 square foot lot. That's a corner lot with the intention of building in the future. You probably don't have 150K laying around once you become a homeowner. One, two, you're not going to come in with enough equity to fund the project, so you can't even do a HELOC. But if you think future tense, like, okay, I'm going to buy this property because in the future, I am thinking of building back there to be able to at some point sell it off, or maybe not even sell it off, like leverage that to buy another one.
Refi,
yeah. Like at that point, now you've opened up your options by simply making that slight decision. So for a lot of people, investors, you're a first-time investor or first-time home buyer, that's a good point, that you brought up. Maybe you don't have the money to build an ADU right now, but it would be smart for you that if you have the option to buy a house with a 3,500 square foot lot versus 5,000, go with the 5,000. Right? Like give yourself that room, like that landscape, like would you say land buying to where you're land banking. Yeah, land banking, where you're just already thinking ahead of the curve.
I'll give you an example of this. I bought a house. The house sat all the way in the front, and the lot was 12,000 square feet, right? So I probably have 10,000 square feet to play with in the back. So I said, worst case scenario, I'll build an ADU. Well, when I bought the house, there was word about SB9 coming in. So I said, okay, cool. I'll buy the house. Worst case scenario, I'll build the ADU and the junior ADU, rent it out, figure it out, but have 3 units. Worst case scenario. The deal got juicier when SB9 came in. It's been a pain in the butt. I'm not gonna lie. It's been 1.5 years. But I think lot split goes down today, actually, or tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
Today, the 13th? No, the 13th, tomorrow. So we already submitted to the county. We're already approved at the city, and we're going to get an official lot split. I don't know anybody that's done an official lot split. I know a lot of people have done an SB9, adding another unit. But I don't know anybody that's done an actual lot split. So I'm going to say, hey, now I could show this to my clients because I've actually done an official lot split. Now I'm like, now it's not theory. Now nobody's telling me. This is what I've actually done. But that's why I land banked that property, because I could build. I didn't know what I was going to build, whether it's an ADU, and it just got juicier because now we could split the
lots. It got way better now because now you with the SB9 lot split. What are your plans there? Like, are you thinking of?
It's a 5,500 and 6,500. Yeah, 55, 65, 2 lots, right? duplex and a duplex.
Damn.
So we're talking about a forced equity. We're talking about over $1 million.
So you're talking about 3 doors initially. Now you're doing like
4 doors together, but
8. Yeah.
No. It's just gonna be 4, 2 and 2. But now you're splitting the lot. So as soon as you split the lot, now it's equivalent to all the duplexes around that are being sold. Duplexes in my area are being sold for 1.2, 1.3. So, you know, the equity value just is going to jump through the roof based on land banking.
Right. No, that's a great point. The other thing I heard you say was 1.5 years. So the patience with this whole SB9 movement and subdividing, again, it's long term. But the benefits that you're going to reap from just that one investment alone, you know, that's crazy to think. And you can probably, once you build the duplexes, you can probably add some ADUs to it too, right? If you wanted to.
It'll be tight because there's a lot of requirements.
Is it too tight? Yeah, because if it's too tight, then yeah. But I know
even when they say, go ahead.
No, I was talking to David yesterday, and so what he was thinking of doing of one in Burbank was he wasn't gonna subdivide or split the lots, but just build another SFR for, I think it was 2,600, and they were gonna allow him to build an ADU on top of that as well. So that was another big win for him. But that's one thing to make note of too. Like, people don't understand that you can subdivide and you can do SB9 to just add another SFR. And what I know a lot of people are doing in like Lakewood, Long Beach, I know some contractors are like telling the homeowners to do SB9 because they'll get a better evaluation than doing an ADU. But again, you're not taking the timelines into consideration. So they think like it's this quick turnaround time, but it's going to take longer, you know? So
that dude. And I think the biggest, I don't know, like not biggest. Yeah. One of the biggest problems in the ADU space is people don't inform their clients on all the additionals, not the build. We're talking about the build is one thing. We're talking about architectural, permit fees, planning fees, school fees, all that stuff that's involved. We're talking about like on a unit, you could be up to 20 to 30,000 just on one unit. And then solar, if you're doing new construction, hey, are you going to require solar? Like I have people like, hey, I didn't even know I was going to have solar, that working with other contractors, and they come up with this, I don't know, $8,000 to $10,000 bill that they can't even, that they don't have no more funds for. So
like, there's so many hidden fees. There's so many hidden fees. Like, I was gonna help a client build 2 600 square foot ADUs in Cypress, and it was a corner lot. It was like a vacant lot, so there were going to be 2 ground ups, and the city required an actual driveway, and so that changed up her numbers, right? Like, that could be 15 to 30K. We don't know. The trenching also was going to be like an additional 10, 15K. So
engineering,
and then solar too, right? Because it was new ground up. So we went from like, you know, whatever we quoted her to like throwing in another 60 to 80K. And so that threw her off and kind of like discouraged her from doing it. But I was super transparent. I'm like, I'm not going to pop up with these fees later down the line. I'd rather you just know them up front, and then you make the decision whether you want to do it or not, you know. But at the end of the day, do I think it's a good investment? Yes, because even with the 80K difference, you know, that we had that we told her to anticipate for, it still made sense. Like 200 to 600 square foot ADUs, 10-foot ceilings, you're going to rent them out to travel nurses. The shit makes sense, but it threw her off right in the numbers. But I'd rather it throw her off now than later down the line when her plans are approved. And now we come back saying, hey, we got to do this and that. And now this came up. And it's part of my presentation too, to let people know, like septic tanks, you know, solar. There's a lot of little hidden fees that you got to kind of take into consideration. So when people are getting like a HELOC loan, if a contractor says that it's going to be $150 to build this garage conversion, don't get a HELOC for $150. Like, get a HELOC for $180, for fucking $200, right? Give yourself some sort of spread to anticipate other costs that may come about. Because even sometimes you won't know, right, as a contractor, until the city, like every city is like so different. And so you got to give yourself some sort of cushion and not just be dead set onto a certain number, right? If that makes sense, because you don't want to disappoint yourself either. You just want to be prepared.
And that's why I highly recommend getting a local contractor somebody that works in the same area all the time, because you can't tell me anything about Long Beach I don't know. I know everything about Long Beach. I know everything about Downey. I know the people in Downey City Hall. So it's like, you can't tell me things I don't know. That's why I tell people, like, if they tell me, hey, come work in Van Nuys, I'll say no. Come work in LA, I'll say no, because I know the people that are here. Yeah, and I know what it takes to get an ADU done efficiently.
100%. You couldn't have said it better. I think hyper local everything. Same with the realtor, right? Like, I don't sell in San Diego. I have a team that does it out there. I don't try to sell everything in Riverside. I got a team that sells out there. But if it's hyper local, like, I know my market, I'll take it on. It's the same thing with multifamily. Like, I just stay in my lane with what I know, because I feel like I can do a better service, right? And I don't want to disappoint anyone. Same with contractors, same with architects. Like, it's the same thing. Just like realtors don't know about the ADU strategy, a lot of contractors don't know about the ADU strategy. A lot of architects don't know what they're doing either. So you kind of have to, you have to really vet who you choose to work with. And the easiest way to vet people is through social media, right? Social media will tell you whether they're about it or not. You can ask other people, you can ask references, you can ask them to go to their projects and go check out how they work, what the quality of work is, and really get a feel for it. And once all these components come together, you make the right decision, right? And you choose to work with somebody. So if people, I know we got to jump off, and you got a lot of work to do too. How can people connect with you? Like, what's your process? If I'm sure you get DMs or phone calls, people reach out to you, what is your first step? Like, you set up a consultation and go over all their options with them? Or what does that look like?
So we go to Escobuildersinc.com, or on Instagram, they fill out an application, and then we see if we work together. So based on that application, I'll see if they're a good fit or not a good fit. If not, I'll lead them in the right direction. But it's always based on application. I don't like just going to free estimates. I know a lot of contractors do that. We don't personally, because our time's valuable. So I'm going to drive an hour to get there. Let's just say traffic and back. And then okay, thank you for the estimate. So I just rather people apply, and then we'll go from there.
Perfect. And then social media, if people want to get educated, they hit you up where? What's your social media handle?
Eric, ERIC, Paul, PAUL, and then last name Escobar.
Dope. All right, guys. Well, there you have it. Make sure you guys follow Eric, follow myself, and really check out the content that he's putting out. And if you guys are thinking of building an ADU, reach out to us. We're definitely here to help. And if not, even getting educated, continue to follow us until you are ready to make that decision, because it makes sense for you and your family, or for you and your investors, to do it and really consider the strategy. And we didn't even talk about multifamily, which is a whole different beast, but it's definitely like, something that you guys should look into for the higher, the high level thinking investors out there that are looking to scale the ADU strategy at a higher scale. So thank you, Eric. I really appreciate your time. This was long overdue as well. So I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. And you guys stay tuned for the next one. We'll be throwing this one out on Friday.
Adios.
Peace out.